The one that bothered me the most was the guy that showed up with rope and duct tape in his vehicle.
Here's a look at some of the dumbest dudes who showed up at the Sting House, and this dude right here played it really safe until he made one dumb mistake.
Did you bring condoms today?
There's some in the car.
So, let's take a deep dive into the unsettling territory of Calvin Lee Greer, a 31-year-old wolf in sheep's clothing from Norfolk, Arkansas. Now, this tale unfolds in the Fort Myers, Florida edition of the show, known for its gripping exposés on online creep. Greer, under the screen name Lee_Greer74, became the unfortunate protagonist during a business trip to Orlando, where he engaged in a disturbing online conversation with someone named Samantha. Not cool. Not cool at all. The chat logs revealed the shocking audacity of Greer as he not only sent inappropriate pictures during their online chats, but took it a step further. Picture this. The dude was standing at her doorstep with lunch and booze. I mean, who in their right mind brings drinks to a rendezvous with someone that young? This isn't just about exploitation, it's manipulation. He was encouraging her to partake in a concoction of irresponsibility. Where were his brains? And did he even have any regard for the naive chick he was targeting? But wait, for the drama was yet to begin.
Fries might be cold. It takes me a little while to find this place.
His motives were pretty clear. All the crew had to do now was to have the decoy request him for some inappropriate content. All they wanted to do was to expose the intensity of the creep's intent. And naturally, Greer fell headfirst into this web, driven by desires devoid of any moral compass. But when Chris decided to pop up, Greer's reaction was quite something.
Lee.
Lee, what are you doing here?
Come to visit a friend off the net, I thought.
It was quite funny to watch Greer's expression make a drastic shift as he laid his eyes on Chris. The confidence that he effortlessly faked in the online realm was now shattered to pieces. All he could manage was a feeble, not much, that came stammering out of his filthy mouth. And this pretty much set the stage for the confrontation that followed. It's infuriating to see someone come up with the good old, "Oh, I thought she was 18" excuse. However, the lack of shame or morals became painfully evident as the confrontation wore on.
A friend off the net?
Yes.
Yeah, and who's that friend?
Imagine the audacity of the guy to Joe about something that clearly wasn't funny. But the dude wasn't done yet. Turns out he had a few more cards to play.
I thought she was 18 or older.
18 or older.
Right.
And what made you think that she was 18 or older?
Stupid. Plain stupid. That's what he was. The fact that he brushed off his dirty intentions as stupidity further emphasizes the gravity of Greer's action. Nobody mistakenly sends explicit pictures and then shows up at the place with food and booze. Either way, now that he was in the clutches of the crew, he had to face the music.
So why don't you start over again and tell me how old did she say she was in the conversation?
13.
And well, this set the stage for the day, which was bound to be anything but the fun Greer had envisioned. But the dude decided to make one last move.
And you thought it was okay for a 31-year-old man to come to a home?
You see, Greer's belief that an apology could make everything okay was absurd. The consequences for his heinous actions wouldn't be erased with a mere apology. And Chris made sure he let the creep know.
You sent her that picture.
Yes, that was stupid.
Given his marital status and the tangled web of poor decisions, Greer deserved the highest form of punishment for his crime. And that is exactly what happened.
Get on the ground! Get on the goddamn ground!
No, please, God, please!
Well, and this exactly is Chris's idea of a fun day, exposing people like Greer to the consequences they so richly deserve. It was time for some karma to hit him hard. Greer was charged with a felony count of attempted lewd acts with someone really young. What's more, Joseph Villacava, the defense attorney for Greer, acknowledged that the show had a positive impact on raising awareness about online creep. He believed that the national exposure had a significant effect on deterring people from engaging in such activity. However, Villacava raised concerns about the evidence presented against the 24 men caught in the sting, including whether charges involving the victim could be justified as they were communicating with adult decoys posing as children. He contended that it may be difficult for the state to prove that these conversations were with an actual child. It's almost like saying my client should not be charged with murder because he missed the target. You see, Chris and the team took precautionary steps via Cava. They weren't waiting for the end of the world to take action. Anyway, fortunately, these illogical excuses weren't able to save Greer. On March 1st, 2007, he was convicted and found guilty of the single felony charge he was facing. In April 2007, Greer was sentenced to 21 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and was required to register as an offender. But now, let's throw the spotlight on this next dude who wears the crown for his mind-boggling stupidity. Yeah, I'm talking about Donald Leroy Morrison Jr., better known to the internet as Donnie 1957 Male. Imagine a grown man teetering on the brink of 50, still tethered to the apron strings of his long-suffering mother, with a sweat stain on his shirt big enough to qualify as its own geographical feature. Donald, born on August 11th, 1957, might have started off as your average Joe, graduating from Butler High School in '75, but oh, how the mighty fall. Before his infamy, Donald had a run-in with the law down in Texas. Back then, he was nabbed for snapping inappropriate pictures of a young Michigan girl. The charge got knocked down to a misdemeanor, sparing him from making an entry into the dreaded offender registry. But did he learn his lesson? Nope. Instead, he doubled down on dumb and waltzed straight into another sting operation, this time in Fort Myers, Florida. By now, Donald had settled into a cozy life as a cookie-baking mama's boy. But instead of using his newfound hobby to turn over a new leaf, he decided meeting younger folks was a hobby worth pursuing. And, well, when the opportunity came calling with the decoy establishing contact online, Donald was off to the races. With the speed of a desperate man on a mission, he wasted no time in setting up a rendezvous, all while sporting that infamous grease stain on his shirt. Emily Biggs, who was posing as the decoy, spoke with Donald from another room. Sometime later, Donald began munching on a cookie offered to him. Not only that, he started to chat with the decoy, who continued to speak behind the protection of the walls. But hey, this dude had an extraordinary way of kicking things off. He actually mentioned he made about 10 dozen cookies for Christmas. I mean, such a sweetheart, wasn't he?
I've met about a dozen of them online.
But guess what? Chris made his entrance with a savage line. He offered Donald a glass of milk to go with his ill-gotten cookie. What followed was a cringe fest of epic proportions, with Donald nonchalantly admitting to his obsession with the younger female crowd. He almost made it feel like it was just a casual hobby or something. Chris could hardly believe his ears. But Donald remains unfazed, chomping down on cookies and dropping truth bombs like they were going out of style.
Knew I shouldn't have done it.
Why'd you do it then?
Because when people sweet talk me, I fall.
As the interrogation unfolded, Donald's self-awareness hit rock bottom. He knew what he had done was wrong, but hey, why bother changing when you can just blame it on lack of judgment? And let's not forget his oh-so-special relationship with dear old mom, whom he feared more than any legal repercussion. But even she couldn't shield him from the inevitable fallout when Chris dropped the bomb that this whole escapade had been caught on camera. Chris asked Donald if he would inform his parents, and Donald replied that his mother would take his computer and completely throw it away. I mean, how many times have you heard that on the show? None. Zero. I have seen enough weirdos on the show, but none like Donald. Chris had to actually remind him that he was a grown man and shouldn't be subjected to punishment from his mommy dearest. Returning to his lack of judgment defense, Donald stated that he didn't have a girlfriend or have any physical contact with anyone. Well, sir, lack of judgment must not turn you into an animal.
Donald claimed he was trying to send an incarcerated woman pictures of her 9-year-old son.
But here comes the twist. Despite knowing full well the risk, Donald freely admitted to watching every episode of the show. Not only that, he also took pleasure in reveling in the downfall of other predators like himself. It was as if he was auditioning for a spot on the show, knowing that he was the next contestant in line. Fast forward to the aftermath, and Donald's world came crashing down around him. Chris decided to bid him farewell, but not before delivering one final blow. Everything you've said and done has been recorded. Cue the dramatic X, with Donald stumbling out the door, only to be promptly tackled by the long arm of the law.
In June 2017, Morrison got into trouble when he backed into another vehicle and shouted obscenities and left before the police arrived.
And so ended the saga of Donald Morrison Jr., a cautionary tale of stupidity wrapped up in a greasy shirt and a box of cookies. Donald's journey post-arrest was nothing short of a roller coaster ride through a twisted carnival of consequences.
He was first taken to a hospital, and after receiving treatment, he was booked and placed in jail on a $50,000 bond.
Amidst the chaos, Donald's body succumbed to diabetic shock. However, once he received the necessary medical care, he returned to jail, only to face the judge's stern gaze. However, on October 13, 2022, Donald's journey reached its final destination. As the curtain fell on his troubled existence, one can't help but wonder, was Donald a victim of circumstance or the architect of his own downfall? With that, let's move on to this next jaw-dropping revelation.
The one that bothered me the most was the guy that showed up with rope and duct tape in his vehicle.
You see, Kenneth Edward Fortin will forever be a figure etched in infamy within the dark corridors of the Fort Myers edition of the show. When law enforcement searched his car, they stumbled upon a sinister trove: drugs, protection, rope, duct tape, and an array of other chilling items. It's the stuff nightmares are made of, a chilling creep's toolkit. This discovery earned him the dubious honor of being dubbed the scariest weirdo. And frankly, with such a cache, it's not hard to see why.
Yeah, I work construction, so I have all kinds of stuff, but if you like rope, I'll bring rope.
Since Kenneth was a construction worker, he decided to bring his tools of trade to the meetup. And I guess you already know what he had in mind. His inquiries about bondage and different positions send shivers down the spine. If at all anything, it offers a glimpse into the dark corners of his depraved mind.
He's been chatting online with a decoy posing as a 15-year-old.
But the real kicker came when he arrived at the Sting House, propelled by an urgency that spoke volumes of his sinister intention.
Would you have a seat over in that chair, please?
He says he's here to meet a girl, but he can't remember her name.
When Chris showed up, instead of the little pretty lady he expected, Kenneth realized his plans were foiled. Clearly, he couldn't hide his confusion.
And he's a little vague about her age.
Rather young.
Fortin's feeble attempts to feign ignorance crumbled like a house of cards. His inability to recall even the decoy's name reeks of desperation, a last-ditch effort to salvage a shred of dignity from the wreckage of his own making. But wait, there's more. Fortin's excuse for his car's ominous contents was a real gem.
No, it's not okay.
During their online chat, they talked about condoms.
He attributed the presence of rope and duct tape to his occupation as a construction worker, a flimsy alibi if you ask me. And then came the piece de resistance, his claim of innocence based on paternal duty. His 6-year-old daughter suddenly became his shield, which to me was a pitiful attempt to gain sympathy. In the aftermath, Fortin found himself at the mercy of the legal system. He pleaded guilty to felony charges of soliciting someone young online, which sealed his fate as a registered offender for life. But even as the dust settles, his story took another twist. Released in 2007, he embarked on a journey northward, seeking solace in the chillness of Michigan. But as we bid farewell to Fortin, we can't help but wonder how many more creeps roam among us, their twisted desires concealed behind a veneer of normalcy. But here comes my all-time favorite character from the show, Jerry Wayne Martin Kosis, featured in the Riverside, California edition of the show, and boy was he something. Going by the screen name GM Kosis, 30-year-old Jerry started an online conversation with a decoy who was posing as someone named Chloe.
I'm just guessing.
You're just guessing. Who was your friend who you were coming to see?
If you ask me, he was something of a cult figure in the TCAP community due to his odd speech patterns, creepy appearance, and seemingly minimal intellect. He insisted that he traveled far just to say hi and meet a friend, and then he said that he most likely had the incorrect address. Chris questioned Jerry about why he believed he had the incorrect address, and well, Jerry replied that it was just guessing. Then later, like an absolute Dumbo, he told Chris that he was looking for Chloe. Clearly, he had no idea about the show.
Well, that would make it better for your story if she was 18, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because she'd be an adult then.
Yeah, I know.
And there wouldn't be a problem with you visiting her.
When asked about her age, Jerry claimed that she was 18, but he couldn't stick to his own lies. Once Chris pulled out the chat logs, Jerry gave up and told him the truth.
You see an issue with a 30-year-old man starting a friendship with a 13-year-old girl?
Yeah, I guess.
On Chris's further grilling, the dude claimed that he had come over to help the girl out.
So you were coming here to be the big brother?
I would like to try to be one.
Yeah, can you believe it that he actually expected Chris to believe that? The dude apparently came to be a good role model and a big brother to her.
Talk about things that if possible, think, we...
You see, while Chris continued his skillful bullying, Jerry continued with his BS. In fact, he even went to the extent of saying that he would provide her with brotherly advice and assist her with her homework.
Doesn't seem like the wholesome kind of homework type advice you're talking to me about.
Finally, it was showtime. Chris shot down all his excuses, emphasizing once more that he had the chat logs as evidence. But Jerry claimed innocence.
I never said anything in that nature.
Well,
I can't believe how he still had the audacity to declare that he didn't want to engage in excessively charged conversation. The man has the entire chat history, Jerry, so why even try to act innocent?
What's my cuter side if you pull your pants and panties down?
I mean, this dude had absolutely no problem asking someone of inappropriate age if she was ticklish and how he wanted to tickle her. Yeah, the dude spared nothing to test her boundary, and he even wanted to witness her cuter side in an inappropriate way.
I mean, you basically ask her to urinate on you.
To say so much and then to pretend like it was nothing is purely disgusting. But Jerry was at it and showed no signs of stopping.
Right?
Alright.
Is that appropriate talk?
What's more, can you believe it that Jerry instructed the decoy to hold her pee for him? In fact, he even claimed he wanted to be under her when she relieved herself. How disgusting is that? The dude had such weird quirks, and then he had this blank expression like as if Chris was in the wrong. But guess what? He had the perfect answer for once. Jerry remarked that he wasn't thinking too clearly when questioned why he mentioned being urinated on by the girl.
Wasn't thinking too clearly.
This man never even tried to apply logic even once throughout this episode. Being a park attendant, it's obvious that he was surrounded by kids, which makes his reaction that much more concerning. And when Chris finally dropped the bomb about being recorded, Jerry had one request to make: to stay anonymous. But well, of course, Chris couldn't do that, and Jerry very politely accepted, saying he understood.
Turn around, put your hands behind your head. Put your hands behind your head. Go down to your knees.
Glad. At least there was something he understood. So, in the aftermath of his arrest, Jerry was originally charged with attempted lewd or lascivious acts, plus attempted to annoy or molest a person believed to be under 18 years of age. Both felonies. Disgusting, right? But his bail was set at $50,000. Jerry tried to fight his charges, and it took more than 3.5 years from the day of his arrest before he pleaded guilty. Though seeking justice is a long process, incidents like these maintain my trust in the system. He was convicted, found guilty, and later sentenced to 240 days in jail, with 3 years of probation and a lifetime tag of an offender. In 2022, as part of Chris's podcast, it was revealed that Jerry moved back in with his parents following the sting. He was active on Facebook, mainly using it to document his knowledge and fascination with the public transport system, namely train, although he hasn't been seen much since 2019. Although Chris claimed that Jerry was no longer on California's offender registry, his Megan's Law page is still accessible. And for the sake of the community and his own sake, I hope the dude is way away from getting into more trouble. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and shoot some of the craziest excuses you have come across on the show. And before you leave, make sure to smash that like, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on my post notifications. Or you could also connect with me on any of my social media pages. And if you thought this video was crazy, wait till you see what I got in store for you next. It's even better.